had Gulf stations all over Texas.
Uh-huh.
And they decided just to redo them all. They had him come in and do the electrical work. And then they had a fixture man bring in fixtures, and they had the paint man come in and paint the walls. Whichever come 1st, you know. So we more or less traveling together. Only one had to get his job done
One
before
job
the
at a
next
time.
one comes. See, but I think he was first. I believe getting electrical work done. See, he'd go in the station. It only had one cord coming down like this with one bulb. That was their lighting system. When he left there, pretty fluorescent lights like that, see.
All throughout.
Yeah. And plugs, things they needed, you know, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't, he's a home man. He didn't want to be away from his family that long, see. And he knew that would take several months to cover Texas. Covering all those little Gulf stations everywhere. So, I took our car, put the kids in it, put our clothes, dishes, pots and pans, what we need to cook with, in the trunk, and I followed him. And he was equipped with a truck that had all the wiring,
Mhm.
you know, all the stuff he needed. So I followed him. Well, one night it was dark, and there was 2 little baby deer sleeping right here beside the highway. And of course, we kept a safe distance between us. He come along, it woke him up. So they was lazily walking across the
Across the
highway
road.
by the time I got there. Well, there was one over here, right at the edge of the highway, another one kind of over the line a little bit, that far. I had to either try to go between them or completely go off of the highway to try to miss that deer, see? Which I didn't know whether I could do it without wrecking the car or not, see? So I had to make a decision. I'm gonna try to go between them. So this one, I cleared him. But this one caught the bumper over here. And, of course I stopped. As soon as I hit it, I stopped. And he didn't see my headlights coming no more. So he turned the truck around and come back. I said, I think I bumped that little deer a little bit. He said, yeah,
Just a little bit.
you bashed his head in.
Aw.
And so, you see, you're supposed to turn something like that in. And then what they try to do is take it to where the meat can be used in an orphanage or something.
Mhm.
Instead of just go bad.
If they can get it there before it goes bad, but who knows?
Mhm.
So late at night and everything. So Wayne decided that he just picked it up and threw it in the back of his truck. We drove into Midland, rented an apartment with a big refrigerator in it. We got newspapers, laid it all there on the floor. He laid that deer and he cleaned it right there.
Oh, wow.
And one of the people that was traveling with us, he wanted the hide. Of course, you have to pay to have it tanned to be good, you know. and we couldn't afford that anyhow, and we didn't have no use for a hide either. But he wanted it, and he was glad to pay the money to have it tanned, you know. So we said, yeah, you can have it. And we cooked deer and invited them all to come eat. Oh, that was the best meat I ever ate in my life. That's better than frog. That's the very best meat you can possibly eat. That young deer.
Mhm.
Now I've eaten buck. People's proud they, I got
I
deer
shot
meat.
this
It was
deer.
on tough buck. But this was young and tender. I felt bad. I felt bad I had killed it. I really felt bad.
Yeah.
But one guy, he had just bought a new Ford car. He said, I'd gladly bump a dent in my new car if I could get a deer like that. Yeah, he said, I would be willing to. And there I was sick because I'd done that.
Better
And,
to hurt the deer than the rest, you and the boys in the car, though, huh?
No, it's but it just, it just didn't seem like a good idea to try to go around, in the ditch with the kids in there and everything. It just didn't sound like I'd better do that. And I just hoped I could go between them, but it didn't work. But I never ate such good meat in my life as that young deer. Boy, it was good. And we feasted on that. That was quite an experience. And I was pregnant for Jimmy at the time. So that meant I just had 2 little boys, see. And we kept traveling and traveling, one station to another. I said, I'm going to have this baby beside the highway if we don't stop somewhere, And finally, we stopped at this little town where he had to go, and he had to leave me because it was too near the time, So he found this lady that was renting her garage out. That's all it was, really, a garage. But she made a nice little apartment out of it. And I contacted a doctor. I didn't know which doctor, or nothing. It just so happened that nobody else would use him. He was an old drunk, they said.
Old drunk.
I didn't know that. But he did me good, he knew how and everything. And that morning, I got up, to go to the bathroom. Everything just kept going, so I knew what happened, see. And I contacted the doctor. He said, well, you really ought to go to the hospital. Your water is broke. You really should go to the hospital. I said, I've got 2 boys here. I'll come when I get them to put to bed this evening. And I chased after those boys that day.
Oh my goodness.
And the landlady said she would watch them after I put them to bed that night. So I went to the hospital, and Wayne was already gone. I didn't like it because I was used to him being at my side when the baby was born. I thought that's the way it had to be.
Yeah.
But it's he did make arrangements for flowers to be sent, and I had to pay for them. And that made me aggravated. But that's the way Jimmy was born.
How funny.
In a little old town, and but of course, I think he was what, a couple of days old, something like that. And if I didn't catch up with them, they'd be too far ahead of me, see.
Mhm.
So he had a man come back and drive my car for me
Aw,
so I could catch up,
yeah.
you know. And that was, I didn't like that kind of setup. I was used to him being there
No
when-
way.
every time the baby was born, you know. But that, at least he wasn't born beside the highway.
Yeah.
But we had quite an experience, you know, going, and we finally got home, and we lived there a while, and his union couldn't get him no work. And the night we decided to go to East Texas the next morning. That's where his local still was. He didn't belong to the Houston local yet. He still belonged to Longview local. So we decided to go there to get work. And that night, the fourth baby kicked.
Wow.
I'm pregnant. I woke him up. I'm pregnant. Oh, that's nice. Went back to sleep. I didn't know whether to take my baby clothes or leave them there because I didn't know how long I was going to be.
Yeah.
See, and we lived up there in Marshall and Longview. Come back, the baby was a month old the time we got back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, that's how come Larry and Bobby both born in Marshall, Texas. They were both born there.
Traveling with work.
Yeah.
Huh.
But if you could ever, they probably have rules about getting the younger deer, don't they?
Oh yeah. Well, they have to at least have horns on them. But I think if you're shooting the does, I don't think there's any certain size limit. But with bucks, they have to at least have some sort of horns coming off of them.
Well, I guess it stood up about this high. You know, it's a small.
Still have spots on it.
It was a young one. Yeah. But I don't think they let anybody shoot them that young anymore, do they? That young.
No.
But that's where the best meat is.
Yeah, it's like fish too. Get them smaller fish, undersized fish taste better than the bigger ones.
I imagine they do. Yeah, they
So
probably do.
probably applies to just about everything.
The older it gets, the tougher it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some people like to eat turtle soup even, but I don't. I never went in for that. Did you ever try it?
I see. I had some turtle soup one time. I can't remember where I had it though. It tasted alright. It was a different taste than meat.
Oh yeah.
It was like a stew, I think.
Mhm.
And there was chunks of meat in
Yeah.
it. And I was eating it, but it was a different taste than meat. But
Your grandpa used to like to make oyster stew. Now it had milk and butter and salt.
Is that like clam chowder,
Yeah,
but with oysters?
yeah. I guess so, 'cause it's milk and butter.
Yeah.
You know, he liked that.
He liked oysters.
Oh yeah,
Well, I wonder why. Dad doesn't like oysters.
he doesn't.
Well, he never. I've never
Well,
even
we
seen
used
him
to
eat
have
any.
oysters. Of course, we ate more shrimp than we did oysters when he was growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you, we had. You see, I grew up there in Missouri, and we got a fish once in a long while, redfish, from some source. I don't even know where. But that was the only seafood that I'd ever tasted. I'd never seen the ocean. I even went to California and back and didn't get to see the ocean. My father was out there with my stepmother, and they wouldn't take me to the ocean to see it. For some reason or other.
Where did they live?
Well, they lived in Redding, California. That's in the northern part of California.
Mm-hmm. And what were their names?
Months. But so when I come to Texas, well, it was before we come to Texas. It's when we went to Pascagoula first. It was during World War II, and there was plenty of work there. That's why we went there. Building ships.
Mm-hmm.
They was building big ships right there in Pascagoula. And there was plenty of work there, so we just rented a little apartment, and he went to work building ships. Well, it was opened up a whole new era for me, because I'd never seen the ocean. And I knew it was salty. You know, I'd been told the water was salty, but it was still a surprise when I got some water in my mouth. It's salty. And when the tide went out, there would be a whole bed of oysters just laying there. And we just picked them up and took them home, and he knew how to clean them.
Chuck them.
And then they even had little oyster places along the street there, where it had a roof and I think a wall up about 4 foot, something like that, and the rest was open, you know. And they sold cooked oysters. They had a seasoning in them. And they were boiled with seasoning in them. And that's the first time I ever tasted shrimp. I never tasted shrimp or oyster or anything like that before. So it was or seen the ocean. It was, I tell you, that was a big experience for me. Yeah.
It's a big experience for me too. Every time I see it.
It still is, huh?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I know they have supposed to be, you know, according to the Bible, you have your unclean fish. Just like you have your unclean animals that you're not supposed to eat. And it's terrible. I don't know why a catfish is not supposed to be eaten when it's so good.
Yeah. Scaleless fish is an unclean fish.
Yeah, it's supposed to have scales, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But I like cats. We lived down there in at Caddo Lake, you know, when Larry was born, and he put out a trout line, you know, a string across the top of the water there, and have hooks every so often.
Yeah.
Every couple of hours you'd get a couple of fish that way, you know. And boy, we really caught the fish that way. Of course, you have to walk in the water. You never know when you'll cut your feet too on broken glass and something like that happened to him too. But he loved his fish.
Yeah, this one right here loves his fish too. He loves to fish just like me.
They, Wayne worked with a Jewish boy for a while. Wayne partners with him because he was a good engineer. He had engineering. He went to school to be an engineer. When he was making those race clamps, if you remember, did you ever hear about them that your grandpa made?
He got the patent on them.
And he had never went. High school education is all he ever had.
Now
But
tell me
this-
about those clamps.
This boy had been through engineering school. Said Wayne knows more about engineering than I do. It just seemed like it come to him somehow. Well, it was, he would melt scrap metal in a big black pot in the garage and then take a dipper and pour it in the mold. And it was, one was two things sticking up and the other one was three things sticking up. And that's to set out there before you pour your concrete. It holds your wiring steady, is what it was for, see. The electricians put the wire out there and they weren't always sure it would stay like it's supposed to while the concrete was being poured. So he seen the need for that, and that's why he invented. He was a very inventive man.
Wasn't a clamp that would clamp the conduit, the pipe that came up out of the concrete to keep it, because it would always fall over on one side when they poured the concrete, so he invented a clamp that would clamp across the pipe.
Yeah. He seen the need for that, see, so he invented it. But being metal, after about a year, there was two things wrong with being metal. One was it was hard for the electricians to carry. They were so heavy. Another thing, after about a year, they'd kind of start crumbling away, see. So the answer, they realized after a while, would be some sort of really hard plastic. And in order to do that, you have to have huge machines, big molds, you know, which would cost thousands of dollars. And we just never could go in for that, you know, it's just, that was,
Too costly.
yeah, it was too costly. But the electricians that used them really liked them because they did their job.
Mm-hmm.
They held the conduit like while the concrete was being poured.
Mm-hmm.
But we made those in our garage there quite a while. He hired a couple of high school boys to help him. One time, that hot lead sprayed up on his shirt, and there was little holes.
Where it burned it. Did it burn him?
And yeah, and he was fussing at me. He said, "You're more worried about my shirt than you are my chest."
Chest will hear his heel, his shirt won't.
Yeah,
Second.
yeah. I'll let you go home today. Bye bye. I could keep you here all night.
You want to stay here all night?
No.
I was telling.
This'll probably have to do me for a year.
I was telling Landon about me and Josh staying at your place in Bailey's Prairie. We stay over there weeks at a time.
Out there, that
Yeah.
place out of Cleveland.
No, not in Cleveland. In Bailey's Prairie, out in by West Columbia. Uncle Larry's.
Oh, Larry's.
Yeah.
I thought you meant our place.
And me and Josh would stay out there with you in the trailer.
Oh, out there, out of Angleton.
Yeah.
Yeah, out of
Yeah.
Angleton. That was a prairie called a prairie that we lived on out
Bailey's
there, out
Prairie.
of Cleveland too. They call
Oh.
that prairie too. I forget what the name of the prairie was. Anyhow, yeah. Helen's little boy used to come out there. Now Helen was Jackie's sister, had a little boy, and he was only about 6 when he come out there. He was the meanest little old boy. You know, he'd take. Larry had that long driveway, and he had to have lights all along it, and he just loved to throw rocks and
Break the light
and break the lights. Yeah. And Larry would fuss at him. He said, "Larry's mean."
Now, whose son was this?
Helen.
This was.
Now that was Jackie's sister, Helen.
Oh, okay.
She's got a daughter, Helen, too. Her first
Mhm.
daughter was Helen, but she's got a sister, Helen. and
Now,
she
this
died
was
of
this.
cancer.
Okay. Now, did Helen's son die? He died.
Had a 16-year-old boy that died.
Yeah, he was a friend. He was a friend of mine. He used to live down the street from us in Lake Jackson, and he'd come over and we'd go hang out together.
Oh, you knew him.
Yeah, and his mom told me one day that he died.
Yeah, that was the strangest thing. He just woke up one morning.
He was a
what I
diabetic.
understood.
They didn't know he was a diabetic.
He was.
Yeah.
Oh. I think that's what it was. Huh?
Mhm.
I didn't know what he died of. They said it just went right quick.
Said he never woke up. Went to sleep.
But you know he came back to help Larry out on his place where he's at now? Just recently.
Oh, really?
He's out there now.
That must be somebody else then.
The little boy I'm talking
Oh, okay.
about. You know, you're talking about the 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, he had a little brother.
Oh, okay.
And he was so he was a little pill. But he turned out to be a pretty good person, believe it or not.
Somebody whooped him into shape, huh?
But he'd come out there. I think he'd had got into some dope or something. I don't know what it was. He was on probation for. And he'd come out there to stay with Larry. And he come at such a good time. Larry was in the hospital with that toe, and he showed up at Larry's just needed home, you know. And he was willing to work. So he's been a big help to Larry since he's been out there.
Hmm.
He has, And I said something about that little boy. I said, "Mama, he's a grown man now. He's 27 years old." To me, he's still that little six-year-old boy.
Time flies, huh?
Yeah. Larry's always been one to try to help people. He's got into it a lot of times and got the bad side of it too.
Mhm.
But he still continues to try to help people. He helps people who've been in jail. I had the last time he helped this one guy been in jail. He'd been in jail before. And and then he's ready to help him again. And he stole my TV and my microwave and my car
Oh my gosh.
just before I got in on the plane. from I was up taking care of Grandma when she, before she died.
Mm-hmm.
I was up taking care of her, my mother, in Kansas, and he stole all that, and he stole some of their TVs too. Put it all in my car, and my car didn't get very far. He's just out of Angleton, and it broke down.
And
But the thing of it was, they impounded the car, and it cost so much. I just had to leave the car. I just lost that car, and we lost everything that was in it because we couldn't identify the items. And that cop, and he talked to Larry about it. That's a bad boy. He said, kept getting reports in about this man, and he said, the bad boy. He said, what was wrong with you taking a man like that in your home? That you shouldn't do that. But that was Larry. He always trying to help somebody. I don't think he ever seen him again after that.